And this happens to be one of my favorite genus. I have lots of them, but this is a really good group of plants, I think. And this happens to be one of the biggest of that particular group. And they are the Daphnes. 361. This is Daphne xburkwoodii, Mackie. And it's a variegated Daphne. That in itself doesn't make it unique. However, it makes it quite attractive. Now, this is probably less than an ideal specimen because it's growing in partial shade under the ash. But that tells you that it can tolerate partial shade to full sun. They like fairly well-drained soils, and they can get quite large. They can get upwards of this height. They have this nasty habit of periodically just up and dying. And we don't know why. Can be explained as wilts and such. A number of years ago, when I was at Cuddy's, we bought an old nursery farm that used to belong to Down Nurseries. And in the back of that farm was a stock block of old plants. And we went in, we were going to bulldoze it and crop the land. I got the call before our cropping division got to it. And we went in with tree spades and we removed these beautiful big Daphnes into wire baskets. And we took them to the Cuddy Gardens and put them into the Cuddy Gardens. And I don't know if you remember, but the border next up to the highway, not the one right on the highway, but the border before that, the big curved border around the front lawn, are a lot of those plants out of that stock block. And I was to discover years later, when I was talking to Jack Parker, that he actually propagated those plants and planted them in that stock block, even long before I met him. And then we had them back into the garden. Anyhow, so I moved these couple of big Daphnes, and then I'm talking to Jack some years later, and Jack suggested that we actually whack them down to the ground to kind of reinvigorate them. So we did that, and the next year they never resprouted. Right, so they're kind of a finicky plant in that regard. What makes them unique, though, is one is the variegated leaves, and two, however, are the blooms. They're going to have clusters of pinkish blooms at the terminals, and they're going to be incredibly fragrant. So you'll want to plant them near paths, patios, etc., etc. And that goes for most of the species of Daphnes. They can be very attractive in bloom, they can have a scent, and this one's got the variegated leaves. So when we talk about value-adding plants, this one's got a 3. It's got a fairly good form as well, so potentially a 4 if it was grown out in the open. But it does have some peculiarities in that it will kind of up and quit on you in prime time. So the Daphnes can be this big, or if you look at the Cuddy Rock Garden, which we just planted this past April, they can be that big. And we have about 20 to 30 cultivars and selections in the Cuddy Rock Garden that are that big, that big. Right? Compared to this. There are some species of Daphne that are native to Canada. Some of them produce very attractive ornamental fruit as well. So they're a fairly good group of plants and severely underused, in my opinion.
Is the fruit edible on the native ones?
I don't think so. I would suspect that because the family, Primulaceae, that it's probably poisonous. But I'm not sure. We usually have someone on these walks who's quite brave and will actually try and chew on everything.
Try?
Yeah, so we're missing some in that regard. Let's go around the corner.